So here's the bike with the top end pulled apart, the carbon was cleaned off the head and the valves adjusted, and there's a picture of the new piston on the right. Okay, so if you can see it, here's the two-piece oil scraper, the expander in the middle and the scraper rings over the top. There's the compression ring over the top. They're 180 degrees apart as per the instructions. If you use KTM's two-piece oiler ring setup, you're going to need to use the ring compressor to get them into the piston. You can't do it by hand. If you use the older style three-piece oil scraper setup, you can compress them by hand and insert in the bottom of the cylinder using the chamfered edge. I'm not sure if you can see that, but you can actually see it compressing the rings. Right, just poke some of that piston skirt below first so I can actually get it started. There we go. And we're in. If you pull the piston far enough down here, you'll be able to see the oil ring start to be exposed. That way to double check that it's been inserted correctly. So the way I removed the old piston was simply by removing one of the piston pin circlips and then just tapping it out essentially from the other side and pulling the piston off. So what I'm going to do with the new piston is insert one of the piston pins into the bottom of the piston, and then when I place it on, I need to put the piston pin in from the opposite direction. So without the circlip insertion tool, this will actually take quite some time to get the knack of using hand tools to insert this circlip. And here we are, ready to assemble the engine. First thing we do is we put on the cylinder base gasket, feeding the cam chain through the relevant hole. Once the gasket's in position, we take the barrel with the piston that's been inserted and we feed the cam chain up through the cam chain valley and feed the cam chain guides through the valley also. So here we are, we have the cylinder and the piston in place. I've placed a rag underneath now because I have to place the piston pin in. We don't want that to drop into the engine. So here's the piston pin being slid into place. And there it is, fully seated home. Pin circlip now goes into place. Okay, there's the tail, making sure that we place it into the right groove. Again, this took a lot of work, hence why the rag is there. Each time it pops out, you'll catch it before it falls into the engine. We place that home and put on the two cylinder head dowels. Next, check the orientation of the cylinder head gasket. Cam chain once again going up through the valley and placing the gasket into position. As the cylinder heads had the carbon cleaned off the valves, it slides into position fairly easily, pulling the cam chain once again up through the valley and also the cam chain guides. And this should slide nice and easily straight over the top of the two dowels located in the cylinder head into place. Here I'm just placing the 4 bolts in, ready to tension them up. I haven't filmed it, but there's the 5th bolt that also goes in front of the cam or into the valley that holds the head and the cylinder together. We tension the head up in stages in a crisscross fashion, starting at 10 Newton meters and finishing at 50 Newton meters. Next, assemble the cam. Now I put 2 white dots on the cam chain and the corresponding cam so that I could line everything up. Next we put on the cam chain retainer, bolt that into position, followed by the cam chain tensioner and bolt that into position. After that, ensuring I don't drop any bolts into the head, I'll cover it with a rag. To insert, there's 2 washers and a nut and a bolt that hold the cylinder head to the frame of the bike. And once they're done up, rag off, tappet cover into position, and the 4 relevant bolts nipped up to hold the tappet cover into place. So to remove the throttle body from the back of the head, you undo the lower 2 rear subframe bolts and you pull the airbox up, which pulls it away from the cylinder head. So you do need a bit of assistance to get that back into position properly before placing back on the ancillaries such as the spark plug lead, the temperature sensor. Yeah. And now here I'm placing on the exhaust. Okay, not forgetting to place the springs back into place. You'll need the appropriate spring puller, obviously, to do this job, both the removal and the reinsertion of those springs, followed by the muffler. To give me easier access to the head, more particularly remove the exhaust from the engine, I pulled off this right side radiator. This is the first startup. One quick crank just to make sure everything sounded okay, and being EFI, the thing just fired straight up. One happy camper.